All right, A Quiet Place Day 1 spoiler discussion for those of you who have seen it or those of you who do not care about spoilers. There's weird people out there. They want to know everything going in. Our buddy Jeremy, his wife, wants to know every spoiler about a movie like this because it lessens her tension and she can't handle it.
Yeah.
So she'll have to watch something like this, which is crazy.
I get it.
I mean,
I understand.
I
It's
get
fine.
it.
You're totally okay for doing it.
Anyway, so for any of those of you out there like that, that's fine. Welcome as well. All right, so spoilers, as I said. So we open the movie with the surprise, which is a really smart play here to make Lupita Nyong'o's character, which what's her name? They don't really talk, right? So there's a lot. Yeah. There's very little dialogue in the movie. So I know Joseph Quinn's name is Eric.
Yes.
Because he like there's a big moment of like him revealing his name.
Yeah.
But with her, why don't you look it up for me? Anyways, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing her actual name. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, her having cancer is a really smart idea. Samira? Jeez, yeah. Did they say that? Alex Wolff probably says that at some point. Yeah, like when she's about to go, do you want to read your poem or whatever? This place is shit. Everything's shit. That guy shits his pants. That was funny. Anyway, so she has cancer. I think this is a really smart decision because, as I had said in the spoiler-free discussion, you have this prequel with nothing but a bleak future ahead of them. And so, because we know that there isn't this fight for survival to just, like, stay alive and get off the island, it's something we've seen enough, right? To make it this, like, it's not about survival. It's about living, right? It's about her going out on her terms.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a really good message about people who are dying of an illness. I think that's a really beautiful message of like, no, like the world has already given me a death sentence and I'm not going to have some asshole alien steal my moment. Like, I'm going to die the way I fucking want to die. I'd already made my decision. I'm going to have my day. I'm going to go. I'm going to visit this place. I'm going to get my pizza. As I said, like, I think some people might not buy into that and not enjoy that ride of, like, really, I'm just going to watch a chick walk around with her cat looking for pizza. Like, if you just simplify it like that and you're one of those kinds of people that's, like, very reductive towards plot lines like that, then, I can't talk you out of it.
Well, that's why I was saying, like, in the spoiler-free section that we did, that I think, like, the humanness in this was very unexpected for me. So if you have a hard time connecting to her character and what she's going through, then I do think it'll lessen your enjoyment of the film because so much of it is spent exploring, like, her pushing people away and, ultimately, like, her and Eric end up having this connection. And I really love that they have a very platonic relationship. Like, there's not really, at least for me watching it, I didn't get a sense of any kind of romance or, like, forced romance or anything. It felt very much just like two people meeting in this horrible situation and extending kindness to each other and, like, presentness, like, being present in the moment with them and, like, what they need for both of them. So I really liked that aspect, but I think that if you didn't have her character going through the illness that she has and, like, her point of view of everything, it would be a totally different film and probably worse off because of it.
Well, what I really love about it for me is that the reason that they're kind of brought together, not because just that he follows the cat over to her, but it's kind of like almost like a beacon of light where he comes out, he has this like angelic little moment with like some being that he wouldn't expect to see, and it leads him to her. But he is somebody who suffers from like anxiety and panic attacks, and he's terrified to die, right? And he doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
And she's already made peace with death.
Yeah.
Right? So for her, it's not the fear of dying. It's the fear of not dying the way she wants to go. And so, like, she's able to help him through his fear because she's already been told she's going to die. That part of her is already, there's that process of, acceptance of dying, right? You go through the denial and the grief and the acceptance and all that. And I love that her character is there to walk him through his fear, and he's there to bring some like much needed joy of life again, right? She's already kind of given up on life at that point. She's like, I don't even give a shit about anything anymore. She hates everything. Everything's shit to her, and she's like, I'm gonna have some pizza. That's gonna be like the last thing I want to do. But even though that place is burned down, even though she doesn't really get what she wants, he's there to like flip it for her and give her this last magical moment that gives her that zest and excitement for life again, which I thought was so beautiful and so wonderfully handled. And for her to like be there for him, to get him through his fear and to save a life, right? Even though she can't live, it helps him to live, which is like almost like a cure for her.
I think that, yes, I agree with what you said about, like, her accepting her death and everything, but I also think that it's more about, like, a meaningful death. Like,
sure.
So, like, that's really, I think, what ends up motivating her. It's not so much, like, I know I'm going to die, but it's, like, as you said, she wants to die on her terms, but more importantly, it needs to have meaning to her.
Yeah. And
the pizza and all that holds a lot of connection and memory. And one thing that I was, like, really struck with watching this is that, like, the places, that, especially since it's in New York, I think it's a really great location because it's a place that's so populated and we really associate it as, like, a place that's full of people and memories. But so people have these connections to places, but the places don't mean anything without the people, Yeah. Like, so when she finds that the pizza place was, destroyed, she has this, like, she's very defeated. And as you said, like, Eric does flip that for her, but it just shows that it's not so much about the pizza at that place. It's about the memories that she had at the place, and he's giving her another really beautiful gift of, like, well, here's this new memory with us, and, like, we're honoring the one that you had with your father because we're at this place that he used to play and all of that. And I thought that was really great. I also think that the cat is very important, actually. I know you said it kind of briefly, but I do think that there's a big significance to the cat leading them together. And throughout the film, the cat is, like, really important to both of them and, to some other characters, like, briefly as well. But I think that that's, again, another thing that really highlights, like, how wonderful humans can be, especially because of the animals that we have in our lives and, like, the relationships that we form with them and how important they can be to one another. So I really liked that. I also think, like, we talked about it a little bit outside of the theater, but the cat being a therapy cat is really smart as well, because it for me explains why the cat would be so, like, well behaved and well trained and
docile, and
it's a very docile cat, which is kind of funny, definitely, because, like, there's a lot of stuff happening, there's a lot of loud noises, a lot of chaos, but the cat for the most part is, like, very chill, unfazed. Yeah. I mean, to see the movie through the cat's perspective, the cat's, like, just having a normal day, right? Like, they're both terrified of getting mauled by these monsters, and this cat just totally chilling, just having like an adventure through the city. What is great about that is that because it's a therapy cat, it works with both of them. Like, so it's not so much that the cat is just like, I'm just a chill cat that's unfazed by anything, but it's like it's specifically trained to be attentive to their states of, like, emotion and, like, how scared or whatever they are. So obviously for her, but it attunes to him, like, really quickly and is, like, there for him when he's anxious and everything. So I love it. I think the cat's so important to the movie and to both of them. And he also is, like, he or she, I don't know. Frodo is the name of the cat, too.
which I'm sure has significance to it as well. I'd have to think about what significance Frodo would have to their little fellowship.
I mean, he's like hope.
Yeah.
I feel like Frodo's a very hopeful character. Like
Yeah.
all of the hopes of like Gandalf and everything are riding on Frodo. And even though Frodo like falters at times, I feel like ultimately he's a very hopeful character.
Well, and plus obviously our characters are on a quest
Yeah.
that they have to walk to. But yeah, so I think with the cat, I think the cat's inclusion is also very cool, and it adds a lot of ramped up tension for sure. I had something else to say about the cat, but then we got off on Frodo, and I completely fucking forgot what that was going to be. But yeah, they don't overplay. I think the film is fairly predictable. But I didn't see that as a bad thing. Predictability isn't always a bad thing. Predictability sometimes can just be like a logical conclusion of like the next scene, where it's like, yeah, this writer and I are vibing, right? Like, this is the next logical step of this plan, right? Like, when things are unpredictable, that can be good if it's done in a way that is like tantalizing and exciting, and you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But you can also be like, oh, what the fuck? I didn't see that coming. That's awful, right? Like, we just watched the movie Blackwater Lane, the other day, and there was all sorts of things that like you saw coming, but you didn't see coming because it's just so stupid that you're like, don't go that way. What are you doing?
Yeah.
This is so dumb. And with this one, the predictability to me was like, yeah, okay. Like, these writers, because John Krasinski helped with the story as well. This is his baby. So he worked on this as well. I think it's just, it makes sense. And I was definitely emotionally invested 100% in her journey and in their bond and where that all ended up. And as I said, like, when he brought the pizza, I was like, he's going to write Vinny's on it. Vinny's? No. So it's Patsy's. Okay, I was going to say Patsy's. Patsy's on it. Like, I love the magic scene.
Yeah, I do too.
That's actually one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Yeah, I love that. That was definitely, like, that entire scene, I was crying a lot. Really, I mean, even before then. But I also think that the scene in the beginning at the marionette show made me cry as well. I thought that was beautiful because and I think that those scenes parallel each other really well because they're both like people making magic. And the first scene, obviously, like, she's very like, oh, this is gonna be so lame, I don't really want to be here, and then this guy is just like doing his thing, and it's this really beautiful little moment that the kids are all like, whoa, like amazed by, and she gets that sense of like childlike wonder. And so I really love the magic scene at the end too with her and Eric, because it's like the world is ending and they're here like playing pretend, but like it's not even playing pretend, they're just playing, and that's like such a cool thing.
I also thought like the reason she gets up and walks out and is like upset and is like, I'm out of here, is because like when the balloon pops, it almost like bursts her bubble. She's like kind of just dazed and he's flying up and maybe to heaven or something, like ascending, like she knows she's going too soon. And there's nothing when you're on death's door like that, when she's at the tail end of like Any Day Now, which they did a good job on. I don't know if she lost weight for this or what they did. She doesn't look like a straight up cancer patient. I mean, of course she couldn't get that thin. When people were like got really bad cancer and they're like on their deathbed, they can't even walk around, man. They're fucking like emaciated down to nothing. I had a girl I worked with who was like 50 pounds when she dies. It's just terrible. It just eats away at everything. But yeah, she walks outside, and I think it's just kind of like breaks her out of it, and it's like brings her back to reality in that moment. She's just kind of lost in it, and she's so enamored by it, and it's this magical, mystical, like little puppet show that she gets so immersed in. And it's just like she's brought out of it, and then it's like, it's all silent and there's like this childlike sense of wonder and everything, and then it's like back out into the real world, opens the door, loud noises and all this, and the deaths. It's you know, and it's kind of ironic too. Like death is coming for her, and like, you know, they didn't play with this at all, but it is an interesting aspect of like, you know, this is her last day or two. I think we get day 2 as well, right? Like they spend the night. Might even be day 3. I think we might go through 2 days because they spend the night in an apartment, but they also spend the night in a church.
Yeah, I think it's a few days.
I think they get to day 3.
Yeah.
But you know, when you think you're on the end, you know, on the at the end of the road on your deathbed, you're very angry and bitter and jealous about like the people who go on, and I think it would have been cool for them to explore that, like in the opening of like, you know, it's not fair with how young I am that I don't get to live like you do. And for Alex Wolff's character to get killed before her, for so many other young people who also should have lived, I thought that would have been a very interesting thing to explore, especially since she's a poet, for her to leave some kind of a note like she does to Eric. By the way, that note would have been wet and would not have been readable. It would have been falling apart, unfortunately. But maybe if she would have taken a second to wrap it in a bag or something, that would have been more believable. I don't care, but I just thought that was funny when he pulled it out. I was like, that shit would be soaked, and it would not be readable. But like, if she could have wrote something about like, I used to want everyone to die with me, right? Like, because you get that anger in you of like, I don't like, this isn't fair. How come you all get to live? How come I have to die young? You know what I mean? And so like exploring that idea of like watching so many other people die in front of you, it's almost like they all got a death sentence too. Like her end of days became everyone's end of days. It was almost like she brought her cancer onto the world, right? And to explore that, like I didn't want to die. And I was mad that everyone else got to live, but now I'd give nothing more than to just be the only one.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. And we didn't explore that, but I thought that was kind of interesting for her to be around so many people that were projected to live way beyond her, and she watched so many people die before her.
Yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting element to it for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think, everyone dies, obviously, and dying from an illness is kind of, I'm sure a lot of people would probably describe it as being killed by some type of, like, monster. Personally, watching this, I got the impression that she was definitely angry, but it felt more like an internalized anger at like her weakness versus I'm angry at everybody else. That's what I got from it. So I didn't really see her being very like I found that she was more, if anything, upset with like Alex Wolff's character for trying to be kind to her and make a connection, because she's just trying to be alone and push people away.
Yeah.
But not so much that she was like jealous of his life or anything. I just think she didn't feel like she deserved friends or anything.
Yeah.
So that I do like that she does make a friend in this. And I think that the ending works really well too. I like that she, sacrifices herself in a way for him, and I like that he doesn't really fight her on it, because he knows like this is what she wants. So I think that speaks a lot to like letting people decide their fate, and she's very clear about it too. So, and I think she does end up, it's a tragedy, as you said before, like the world does end and she does die, but it's on her terms.
I think the ending would have been a little more impactful had we established what her dad's like name was or whatever, and then when she goes to shuffle her little iPod touch thing there, or iPod mini that she has, if it would have been able to be clear that she was listening to her dad's piano while she died, as opposed to just some random like pop song, right? Or not pop song, but soul song or whatever.
Yeah.
I know the song.
Yeah.
I don't know what classification that song is under, genre title wise, but yeah. And you know, as far as the monsters go, you know, there's nothing really new explored here with them. And I think that might be a bit of a downside, just because if I was writing this, I would definitely be playing around with the world more, because we're detached from our characters who have already lived through this for, you know, hundreds of days, like almost 2 years. They have their plan of action. They have their approach to things, and we see how they live. They live a very quiet life. But I would like to see explorations of different ways that people live through this, and different attempts at different things. To have other people in the city trying different tactics.
Yeah.
That's what I thought we were going to get. I thought we were going to spend more time. I didn't think it was going to be such a personal story. And we were just going to be focusing on 2 characters and a cat for the majority of the time, like 90% of the film, which I'm all into now that I've seen it. But having gone into it with these expectations that we were going to be dealing with a big city, and that this was going to be playing out more like in a disaster film, you know, like a San Andreas or Earthquake or Towering Inferno, or, you know, any of those other disaster films, I thought that we might explore like different ways of trying to trick them, or different ways of like you know, putting things over your head and other people's head to like try to talk to each other without making sound on the outside, or finding areas that you can like soundproof, or, you know, just there's so many different ways that you could go about this, or like setting off different sound traps around the city so that you can distract them to move, and you know, trying to learn them and figure out them. Like, it feels like everyone's very clear on what they are and how they work very quickly. Like, everyone's just like sound instantly. It's very quick. And that is a tad unbelievable, that like everyone is so like astute, you know, on this. They're just like, oh, sound? Okay, sound.
Well, it's definitely not everybody, because a lot of people die.
A lot of people die, but it just feels like every character that we interact with that's alive and isn't just running and screaming and being like cannon fodder is like very quick to be like, oh, it's sound. Like,
for me,
very quickly.
that works fine, because I think that those would be the people surviving, would be the ones to notice.
I get it. I just think it would have been interesting to explore this in a different way. They don't change it's not that they need to change the monsters. The monsters are consistent, right? Which is great.
Yes, they are.
You know, that's fine and all. So continuity is all good with the monsters, but there's just nothing new to them. And the way that we make something new to them is how our characters react and try new things with them. And nothing is done here that's unique to this film, where it's like, oh, well, in this film they used these tactics. You know, it's just the same tactics that anyone would use. And I just feel like you could have gotten more creative with that stuff, and they just didn't.
I really like what we get with the monsters in this. Personally, I think that we get a lot more of them, which would be expected. I think that they're like it did feel like a disaster film to me. I think that that's definitely accomplished. And we do get like a scene where they have these like pods that they're eating, which I thought was interesting.
That was a new thing.
And that is new, So that might play into
is that their
something
food
in
source,
the future. I don't know. We both thought that they were like eggs or something, but they were definitely looked like they were eating it, which is weird, because I thought that they also eat the people.
I don't think so.
But maybe not.
I think they're just eradicating us. We never see them eating anybody.
But, you know, and like there's still radio as well, so I think people are definitely being warned. The government is like flying above on helicopters telling people like they like tell them right away, like, get to water, they can't swim.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
they know it so fast.
You know, but that's, I don't know, for me that all worked fine, but I know what you're saying, like to have them try and like discover that would have been cool to see. But because of what the film is about, like being this personal story, I think it was a good idea not to spend time on that type of stuff with this film.
Why do you think they're trying to evacuate the city before they're even in the sky? Did other ones hit somewhere else earlier?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that they hit and then they're like, oh, and then they just start hitting, New York.
So, a couple last things here. Number one, I think Joseph Quinn can be in A Quiet Place 3. Because he goes potentially to the same place as Jaimoon's character. I don't remember his name, but he's on that island that Cillian Murphy and the deaf daughter go to in part 2. So it would stand to reason that Joseph Quinn is on that island.
Yeah.
So if they hook up with him, he absolutely could be in part 3.
Yeah.
And lastly, Joseph Quinn needs to stay away from Demogorgon type creatures because these things are pretty much stand-ins for Demogorgons. They look exactly
really,
the same,
similar.
basically.
Yeah.
And this is the second time he's encountered them, although he got to live this time. Although it was the Demo Bats that took Eddie Munson out, not the Demogorgon. But I just thought it was ironic of how similar the creatures look to the Demogorgon, and that it has Eddie Munson in it. Alex Wolff was good here. He has very limited screen time, maybe 7 to 8 minutes accumulatively, but I think they're good moments. I knew he was going to die when he died.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a surprise at all. But I think his impact is solid.
I do too. I thought he had a really strong performance.
And I like that, our character from part 2 here is, there's a really good scene where he has to, like, kill a guy to shut him up.
He doesn't even intend to do that.
Not at all.
He's trying to just, like, knock him out, and he ends up accidentally killing him.
And he, like, looks over at his kid who's watching him, and then he does it, and then he looks back, and the kid's gone, and he's like, I'm sorry. Like, he feels like such a monster, and he knows that his son witnessed him kill somebody, and it's like, fucking 5 minutes ago, world was normal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And now you're killing someone in front of your kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is too much for a brain to handle.
It's a lot, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that scene. I thought it was really powerful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, he jumps off the dock and swims out. That cat is just so chill about going in the water, running, getting chased. Thing is just living its best life.
Yeah.
And there's even like a moment where he comes out and he almost crowd surfs as they take him away. But yeah, and then the note at the end was very sweet and funny. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really good humor in this. Yes. Which might turn some people off again.
It's nice to have some levity, though.
Yeah.
I think it's important because otherwise it's a really, really heavy film.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all the levity is very well placed and is in places where it needs to be. I know that the scene where he goes to get her like medication might be not as thrilling because it's just the cat that shows up. But then, he goes to save the cat from the top of the structure. I would have just fucking left because that cat will be fine. That cat, he's a freaking trooper, man. He always finds his way back. I would just go over there and just wait. Going up there to get the cat was pretty dumb, in my opinion. I think that the cat would have gotten down on their own. It's smart. It survived this long. If they would have had it make it seem like he couldn't get down, I don't see that. That cat got up there. That cat can get down. And I would have just went over there and waited. And as soon as the monsters went away, I'd have been like, let's go. Him going up there was kind of silly. But that monster, I know they're big, but in that scene, when he makes a noise for a second.
Yeah, it looks really massive.
It looks huge.
Yeah.
Those things look 10 feet tall.
It was super big.
And the face is like this big.
I know.
It was a lot bigger
huge.
Than I thought they were.
Yeah.
Because when Emily Blunt sticks like a shotgun to its head, when it's like, ah.
Yeah.
And I also thought the CGI on them up close with like the mucus and the skin and all that stuff inside of it, that looked legit real.
Yeah, it looked really, really good.
And in the other two, those moments aren't as good. They're good. They're very good. But this one, I was like, I think that's practical because that looks too good. If that's CG, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's that. Really impactful film. Really smart to do the cancer thing, the cat thing. I think those are really smart plays and a character with really bad anxiety. There's a lot of good action set pieces, whether it's the subway water, which he survives twice.
Yeah.
He must have come out of the subway himself. He's a lawyer, or he's in.
Yeah, he's in law school.
He's in law school, so he's not a lawyer yet. Would they have had a romance had she been able to survive and they wasn't sick? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know either.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's like there wasn't a place for it, right?
No, I'm glad that it wasn't there.
I mean, if I was her, I'd probably be like, "Can I get banged out one more time before I go?"
That's you.
That's
That's only you.
No, that's not only me. That's only me.
No, I'm really glad that wasn't in there at all.
It's probably too much fucking pain.
Yeah,
to
I feel
enjoy
like it would have
right?
been completely. I think it would have ruined their relationship. Honestly, I think it works so much better as the platonic thing that it is.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you.
Because we don't need. Not everything needs to be a romance. Like
No.
it's really good to have relationships in films that are platonic and that are friendships and that are between men and women or men and men or women and women or whatever. Like it doesn't all need to be romantic.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's what she needed. She didn't need a romance partner. She needed a friend, and that's what.
And they needed each other.
Yeah.
Right. They ultimately help each other out tremendously.
Yeah.
Throughout, he gets her the medication. He gets her to the place. And she helps him and rescue. Potentially sacrifices herself, and yeah. So I think they balance each other out well, and the cat's there in the middle, keeping them focused. So yeah, very solid. Very pleased.
Yeah, me too.
So, other comments? I'm sure we've missed things. There's, we didn't take notes. We're just winging it, as always, with these out of the theater reactions. But that's that.
Yeah.
Anything more?
Nope, that's everything.
All right. Well, let us know what you thought of the film, and we'll see you in the comments.